Today we explore the most difficult chapter in Danube Swabian history. For nearly 250 years, German-speaking settlers had lived throughout the Danube Basin. They built villages, churches, farms, businesses, and cultural institutions. Entire generations knew no other homeland. Then came World War II. The war would divide communities, force impossible choices, destroy centuries-old settlements, and ultimately lead to the collapse of one of Europe's largest German-speaking populations outside Germany. This episode requires careful historical treatment. The story is not one of heroes and villains. It is a story of ordinary people trapped inside a catastrophe created by governments, armies, and ideologies far larger than themselves. By the late 1930s, Danube Swabian communities were deeply rooted in their respective countries. Many families had lived in the region for 200 years or more. Yet Europe was becoming increasingly unstable. The aftermath of World War I had redrawn borders, weakened economies, and fueled nationalist movements. Ethnic minorities across Eastern Europe found themselves caught between competing governments and competing visions of identity. The Danube Swabians would soon be drawn into conflicts they had not created. The Nazis used the term Volksdeutsche to describe ethnic Germans living beyond Germany's borders. For Hitler's government, these populations represented more than cultural communities. They became political tools. Nazi officials attempted to cultivate loyalty among ethnic Germans throughout Eastern Europe. Some individuals embraced these efforts. Others remained indifferent. Still others resisted or simply wished to stay out of politics altogether. The reality was complex and varied from village to village. As Germany expanded across Europe, the Danube Basin increasingly fell under Axis influence. In April 1941, Germany invaded Yugoslavia. Occupation authorities quickly reorganized large portions of the region. Danube Swabian communities suddenly found themselves living under new political realities. Many local institutions were transformed, monitored, or absorbed into wartime structures. Life changed rapidly. Under occupation, ethnic German organizations gained new power. Leadership positions increasingly reflected Nazi expectations. Schools, youth groups, and cultural associations became vehicles for political messaging. Some community leaders cooperated enthusiastically. Others cooperated reluctantly. Many ordinary civilians simply attempted to continue daily life while adapting to rapidly changing circumstances. One of the most controversial aspects of the war involved military recruitment among Danube Swabians. Many young men were drawn into military service. The circumstances varied considerably. Some volunteered, others were pressured, many were effectively conscripted. In occupied Yugoslavia and other regions, refusal could bring severe consequences. For families, these decisions were often matters of survival rather than ideology. The Waffen-SS recruited heavily among ethnic German populations. The Banat became one of the most significant recruitment regions. It is important to understand that motivations differed dramatically. Some recruits were committed Nazis, others sought economic security. Some hoped to protect their families. Many felt they had little practical choice. Historical evidence shows a wide spectrum of experiences rather than a single explanation. Avoiding oversimplification is essential. While men served in military units, civilians endured the realities of war. Food became scarce, travel became difficult. Families worried constantly about loved ones serving on distant fronts. Mothers, children, and elderly relatives struggled to maintain farms and households, while uncertainty dominated everyday life. The war touched nearly every family. The Balkans became one of the most brutal theaters of World War II. Partisan forces fought Axis occupiers and collaborators. Occupation forces responded with harsh reprisals. Ethnic tensions intensified. Civilians frequently found themselves trapped between armed groups. Many innocent people suffered, regardless of their political views. By 1943 and 1944, Germany's military situation was deteriorating. The Red Army advanced westward. Axis control weakened throughout Eastern Europe. Danube Swabian communities increasingly feared what might happen if Soviet forces arrived. Rumors spread quickly. Many families began considering flight. As Soviet forces approached, hundreds of thousands of ethnic Germans fled westward. Entire villages loaded wagons and carts. Families carried whatever possessions they could. Many left homes their ancestors had occupied for generations. The retreat was chaotic and dangerous. Some never reached safety. Others became permanently separated from relatives. For many Danube Swabians, this marked the end of centuries in their ancestral villages. Not all Danube Swabians fled. Some were too old, others lacked transportation. Many simply believed they could remain in their homes. The war's end would prove devastating for many who stayed behind. After the war, many governments viewed ethnic Germans collectively through the lens of wartime collaboration. In several countries, property was confiscated. Citizenship rights disappeared. Thousands entered labor camps or internment facilities. Many who had never served in military organizations suffered alongside those who had. Collective punishment became a defining feature of the post-war experience. The suffering did not end with Germany's defeat. Large numbers of ethnic Germans faced internment, deportation, and forced labor. Conditions varied but were often extremely harsh. Women, children, and elderly civilians were among those affected. These experiences remain deeply remembered within Danube Swabian descendant communities. By the late 1940s, the Danube Swabian world had effectively collapsed. Communities that had existed since the 18th century disappeared almost overnight. Many survivors settled in Germany, Austria, Canada, United States, Australia, and South America. A people once concentrated along the Danube became a global diaspora. History rarely fits neatly into categories of good and evil. The Danube Swabian experience reminds us that entire populations can become trapped between competing powers. Some individuals made terrible choices. Others acted courageously. Most simply tried to survive. Understanding that complexity is essential for honest historical study. Today, descendants of Danube Swabians continue preserving their heritage. Family histories, church records, photographs, and oral traditions help reconstruct communities that no longer exist. Genealogy has become one of the most powerful tools for reconnecting descendants with their ancestral villages. The physical settlements may be gone, but the memories remain.